Hi, everybody. Welcome to the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. I'm Dr. Sarah Gordon, and I am here with my friend and my guest, Arwen Elaine. Arwen, welcome back to the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast.
Oh, Sarah, it's so great to be with you again. Thank you again so much for having me here.
So for our listeners, if you're tuning in for the first time or seeing Arwen for the first time, we recorded episode 69 together. And we came up with this idea of having this kind of like a four-part series on topics that we had laid out. And originally, I was a little bit overexcited about it. I said, okay, let's do them all in 2 weeks and we'll just put them
One
all
a
out
week or
there.
some, two a week, I think it
To a
was. Yeah.
week. And the reality is that that volume of information is hard to consume that quickly. And so we decided to slow it down a little bit and break it into like one every other couple months or so. So our first one focused on identity shift. And it was a great conversation. I learned Arwen brings so much knowledge, practical knowledge to the conversations. I'm a little bit more on the research side. She's a coach. She's out there training athletes. She practices what she preaches as a triathlete and as an
Yep.
athlete. And so she really understands a lot of this in a practical sense. And I bring a little bit more of like the theoretical framework about self-determination theory and how we can live our best lives and apply these theoretical frameworks based on human motivation and exercise motivation. So we came up with this idea to do these four topics together. And like I said, the first one is in episode 69. I highly recommend you to go back and listen to it. Arwen did a lot of research and brought a lot of really depth to that conversation. And it's called The Identity Shift, Who Am I Becoming, and the Courage to Begin Again. And it launched on June 4th, 2026.
That's right.
So here we are back together, and we are doing episode 80 together,
Wow.
right?
Congratulations,
Thank you.
man. You come a long way, baby.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing this moment with me. And 80 is just a really cool number for me as well. It's one of my favorite numbers.
Awesome. Love
So,
it.
yeah, thank you for being with me today. And what's interesting about this is that we had laid out that our second topic would be resilience isn't
Hmm.
grit alone, it's recovery. And I just love that. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about this grind and this hard work and push through hard stuff and obstacles is the way. And I came back from Geneva, Switzerland. I went to a conference and I recorded a podcast episode, and it really was kind of like this, kind of like
Hmm.
we there's just more to it than just the grind. And so I love that we're doing this today. And then let me just lay out the next two and then come back to this thought about resiliency.
Sure.
The next one is the courage to be seen.
Hmm.
We'll launch that in a couple months.
I
And
can't wait
then
for
we'll
that
wrap
one.
it up with sustainable ambition,
Hmm.
health as the foundation of our dreams. I love that.
I
And
love that too. I
and
can't wait to dive into that one.
yeah, and Arwen really helped us lay out this framework and this outline for these topics together. So thank you for that work.
Oh, my
But
pleasure.
yeah, you put a lot of work into laying it all out for us.
Cool.
So before we get started, I just want to say that I just had on Scott Propolsky on episode 79. And
Hmm.
it was my first time kind of reaching outside of the multi-sport world. Well, not necessarily the first, but definitely a little bit different than kind of like my traditional guests on the show.
Yep.
I really wanted to spread my wings and start to understand all of these topics that we talk about from maybe a little bit of a different angle.
Yeah,
And
different perspectives for sure. Yeah.
he's a professional photographer, and he was a photographer with National Geographic, and he did the
Wow.
White House
Cool.
events for like
Hmm.
his whole career. And then COVID hit,
Oh.
and then he had to kind of transform his life. And
Hmm.
so I just find it so interesting that the last time you and I were together, we were talking about this a couple months ago about identity
Yeah.
shifts
Yep.
and how important that is.
Yep.
And then so we didn't necessarily plan the timing of
Mm.
this from my
Yeah.
last episode to now, but so interesting how it just always kind of flows, you know?
And on that, it just occurred to me like identity shifts sometimes are brought about by um things outside of outside of your control.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's an internal thing where you're like, this is not who I am. This is who I am. That's sort of a, I guess you would say it was sort of like an intrinsic identity shift versus an extrinsic one like COVID, you know.
That is such a great point. I mean, that,
Hmm.
that, and we haven't really talked about my conference, but it was all about self-determination theory. And
Oh,
that's
wow.
exactly what that is. Like,
Hmm.
and, and then this is great because this will lead up to like how we cultivate resiliency and all of that. Because you're right.
Hmm.
We have experiences that are external, that we have absolutely no control over.
Right.
We did not control, well, no, we didn't control COVID. I mean, to some
No.
level, maybe somebody did at some level, but we didn't.
Yeah, but like the average person, no.
Right? We just
We
lived it.
yes.
But
Exactly.
and sadly, a lot of people lost businesses and had to rethink the way they were going to move forward in their lives
Hmm.
to have to have an income and to have meet basic, the basic needs that we have in life. But to take those steps forward, that becomes internal. And that's
Yeah,
exactly what you just said.
yes. Yep. It always comes from within you, whether it's like something that happens to you. It's a relationship, right? With what happens. Um, the like I can use myself as an example, like
Mhm.
COVID, if you're going to use COVID,
Mhm.
I couldn't work for, I mean, at all. I couldn't work for almost a whole quarter. So that's a whole quarter. It's a quarter of the year, the income.
Mhm.
I couldn't make any money.
Scary.
It was very scary. I
Scary
mean,
for a lot of
fortunately,
people.
in my case, I was okay, but I think for a lot of people, they weren't okay. And um, for me, it reinforced the fact that it's like I have to work. It's not just for earning money and paying the bills, but just feel that need to get out and put out into the world. Like
Mhm.
I missed it. It really kind of, especially the last couple of months they were tough. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. Not to mention I literally lost half of my clientele due to COVID. So not
So,
that they didn't pass away. I don't mean that. Like it just,
oh, right. No,
yeah.
and Scott made the point in these identity shifts, you're not necessarily just creating something entirely new. You can transform
Hmm.
the kind of
Or
the
evolve.
before and after. And
Hmm.
so, one of the blessings, I guess, if you could say it this way, with COVID or outcomes, perhaps that's a better word,
Yeah.
is Zoom. Look what we're doing. Like, how many
Yes.
people were using video conferencing tools before COVID? I mean, not that many,
Yeah, they
right?
existed, but certainly not
Not
in
like
the,
now.
you know, and now it's completely acceptable. I mean,
Yeah.
I literally would take some clients, not all of them, but some of them that I used Zoom to actually give them workouts.
Hmm.
So, I mean, who would have ever thought that? No, I don't think anybody would have thought that to be acceptable
Yeah.
before COVID. It was sort of bred out of necessity. So I guess
Yeah.
you could say that was a good thing, maybe. I don't know.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I think what it is that we have these mass disruptors in life,
hmm.
and as human beings, we have to learn to be adaptable. And
Yeah.
I think and we don't have to, but you're more likely to thrive through the situation if you adapt to it and you recognize that you have the strength within you. I always say strength for the journey within, to take
Mm-hmm.
those steps forward. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be an easy transformation,
Right.
but it can be. And in
Which
that,
brings you nicely to the topic du jour, resilience, because yeah,
because
yep.
in that
Mm-hmm.
experience,
Yep.
we learn resiliency,
Yep.
right? What is it,
So,
Arwen? What's resiliency?
well, I mean, resilience is not grit alone, it's recovery. Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that little statement, right?
Right.
Because, in kind of parsing it out, resilience is both a process and an outcome, right? And um and that's sort of brought about by whatever stressors, external or internal stressors. Um you regardless, it's something you're faced with some kind of stressful situation, and it's okay, well, how do we cope with that? How do we deal with it? How do we mitigate the circumstances? And so you've got, resilience is sort of, I would say, is kind of like an umbrella term. It sort of speaks to the overall state of, but you've got grit, you've got determination, you've got you there's drive, there's so many different things. Like, as an example, grit, I would consider grit to be like, okay, you're in mile 2 of the 5K at the end of the race, and it's 95 degrees out, and you've been there, I've been there, right? And you're like, oh my God, I'm dying, I can't run another step. My saliva feels like jello in my back of my throat, and I want to die. And, but somehow you are like, nope, one foot in front of the other, and you get there, right? That to me is sort of like grit. If you're going to apply it to a more like everyday situation, maybe it would be like, okay, a challenging project at work, or I'm not, I would say I would maybe liken it to that, where you're like, okay, well, this is coming to an end soon. I just have to, put my
Sean.
head down and just keep pushing through, and breaking the big task down into little manageable pieces and things like that. And I think really more than anything, it's sort of after it's done that you realize, hey, I did it. Like, I made it. I finished the race. I got the impossible project done. I got, whatever. Um, and it's that moment of, like, I guess you could call it enlightenment or reckoning, that you realize, like, you know what? I can do this. If I can do this, I can do that.
Hmm.
Um,
You learn
I
a lot
mean,
in that.
yeah.
As you're talking, I'm thinking, you know, let's let's take a macro perspective on human life. I get a little philosophical here for a second.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Humans, we like comfort,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
It
Our
feels
brains are wired for it.
right,
Your brain is wired for it.
right.
It doesn't like uncomfortable situations. Yep.
But the beauty of that, and this, I feel like this goes through the test of time as human
Hmm.
beings in so many different stories, situations, as you read things about life and history and humans and, human experience and all that kind of stuff, you realize that, like, sometimes we find ourselves in uncomfortable situations. Like you said,
Oh yeah.
sometimes it's external,
Hmm.
sometimes we put ourselves in those situations. If we view ourselves as a living, breathing, organ, thriving organism, then if we stay static, let's just say comfort is static, we don't necessarily grow.
Right.
We know if we're sedentary, years of sedentary behavior, our bodies tend to start to get
Yep.
sick. Our minds too.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying sitting and reading because that's an activity, when you're reading a book. But my
Yep.
point is that resilience grows out of discomfort, and it's so hard. We have to because it doesn't feel good sometimes to go through
Hmm.
hard things, especially when we don't control them, right? Or they just
Yep.
come across our path.
Yep.
But mindset, when you take a mindset of, okay, this is what I got.
Hmm.
I have the strength from within me to deal with this and come up with these solutions from within,
Yep.
something internally, intrinsically, some intrinsic motivation. You move through these things, right? I love that old expression, this too shall pass.
Yeah,
Because you
it's
move
true. Yep.
through these things, and the gift sometimes of it is the resiliency that you learn that you can then apply to other things because they don't necessarily come through our life one time, one and done.
Yes.
They come through our life, they weave through our life in different ways. And so
Hmm.
resiliency is kind of like a gift. Now we can learn it too when we put ourselves in hard things, when we put ourselves in Ironmans and marathons and PhD journeys and big projects
Yeah.
at work and, take on, organize big things, family reunions and blah, blah, blah. We can learn these things from things that we take on ourselves. But I think that's the beauty of resiliency. What I want you to share with our audience is how do we make it not so much about the grind, the hard, the I'm exhausted, I'm burnt out, I'm depressed, I got anxiety about all the hard stuff, and
Yeah.
look at it as coming out of it perhaps, or looking at it as more of like a recovery from whatever it is that you're going through.
Well, um, okay. So the first thing what I was going to say to you is what you had said earlier, with regard to the mind being wired for comfort. That's a safety mechanism
Okay.
that's been like wired into that's just, it's part of our survival mechanism as
Right.
humans, right?
Okay.
And and but yet the irony of it, I find, is that it's when you're not comfortable, when you're out of that comfortable, that which you deem as
Mm-hmm.
comfortable, and you're actually in an uncomfortable situation, that the growth occurs.
Right. Can you
Um,
tip just real quick? Can you
yeah.
tip to too much discomfort?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think
Okay.
that there is certainly I think, and it varies from person to person.
Okay.
Like maybe one person would be like, "Oh my God, I could never be in that situation." And then the next one's like, "Well, what are you talking about? That's nothing, right? It's not that big a deal." Well, to another person it might be a big deal, you know. So
Right.
it's really a relative, I think it's a very relative thing. But, you know, for what you within yourself
Mm-hmm.
you you know it's to be outside of your comfort zone is to invite the growth to me,
Oh, I love
operating
that.
within your comfort zone. And there's a reason why it's there. I'm not saying you should spend all of, or somebody, not you, but somebody should,
Right.
people should not spend all of their time outside their comfort zone, because I think that there's a price to pay for that.
Right.
But and there's a reason why it's there, sort of so that you can return to it, right?
Right.
um but yeah, in terms of inviting the growth, yeah, you have to be a little bit uncomfortable. I think, you have to
Yeah.
be safe enough but uncomfortably safe, if that makes if that
No,
makes
it
sense.
does. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a
Yeah.
very dynamic conversation, and this is why I
Yeah.
love to draw parallels to
Yeah.
athleticism.
Yeah. Well,
Because
I
we
mean,
learn so much when we
yes,
push
yes.
ourselves a little bit,
Yep.
outside our comfort zones, not to the point of getting like being injured or whatnot, but when you
Right.
raise your heart rate and you get your cardiovascular system going and you strength
I've
training,
worked with
mobility.
I've worked with a number of clients and athletes alike who are scared to what they like, that beating heart, that racing heart rate, which, okay, for you and I it's like zone 5, no big deal, right? But
Right.
for them,
How
they're
fast you
like
recover.
yeah, they're scared, they're afraid of that, because they're afraid, because it's like they've never felt that way before, you know?
I
So for them, it's like, oh, you know, they think that they're going to have a heart attack. And it's like, no,
right.
no, you're just working really hard.
I just thought of something as you said that. Like,
Hmm.
think about it. Zone five train or zone four, zone five, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
It
Threshold or
really,
above threshold. Yeah.
I mean, really, the test of your fitness is how quickly you recover from it,
Yeah.
right? How quickly you get your heart rate back down. So
Well, yeah,
that's
that's certainly, yep,
to a certain
that's
degree.
in a very like granular way. Yes, of
You know what I
course.
mean?
Yeah.
So that's recovery.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um
so
s- so what
see
I
where I'm
was
going
gonna
with that?
yeah, no, no, I think I do. So on that, um to me, the older that I get, the more I realize the more important recovery becomes, and not just literal recovery from our workouts and our training as triathletes, but recovery in general is, it's what it's where I always say, it's like jokingly, it's where the magic happens, that your workouts and what you do during the day when you're out and about living your life, you need to have that you need to have that recovery. I call it the yin to the yang of life. You need to have that recovery, uh not just from your muscles recovering, but I mean, people don't realize what happens when you are asleep. Like your brain does all of its house cleaning.
Hmm.
So your brain clears out all of that, um, waste product that generates during the day. And if you don't have a good night's sleep, or you have very little sleep or what have you, there's a reason why you have brain fog the next day. It's not just like, oh, well, I'm just tired. Well, there's a physiological reason. It's because your brain has to do its housekeeping
Hmm.
at night. And
So interesting.
if you don't sleep properly, if you don't get proper quality and enough sleep, there's a reason why. It's not just because you're fatigued, it's because your brain hasn't had a chance to sort of reset, if you will, clean house for the next day.
So do you
So,
think, as we're talking about resiliency and beyond just the hard, and
mhm.
we're trying to focus on the recover, do you think it all starts with sleep?
I would say to you, boy, that's a tough one. I would say
And we're
that,
just having a conversation. Obviously, there's so
yeah,
many layers to like the
yeah, yeah.
neuroscience behind,
Yep.
physiology
Yep.
behind it. We're just
I
talking.
would say that, of like, if you're talking about movement and nutrition and stress mitigation and all of that, like all of those things are very important. But I would say to you, if I were going to pick one thing to kind of maybe be a little tiny bit higher in the importance, especially as you get older, it would be sleep.
Hmm.
Because in fact, oh, I wrote notes on this actually, because
But
no, no, I did.
can I say one quick thing
Yeah,
though?
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Consistency in your sleep hygiene.
Yes. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
consistency in all of those things
Yeah.
is out far outweighs everything.
Yes.
Consistency in your training, consistency in good eating,
Yeah.
consistency, all of that. But yes,
Hmm.
what I was going to say is, lots of people, you see them walking around all day who do no exercise and eat a garbage diet, and they're still like living, right? They're doing their thing. I mean, would I say they have a very high quality of life? I don't know. But probably not. If I was betting on that, I would say that not so much. But to me, if you have one crappy night's sleep, it doesn't matter, any of those things, because it
Throws you off.
right,
Throws you off your
exactly.
game.
As opposed to, okay, well, I'm sleeping well, but I'm eating
Everything
crappy,
else is out
and
of
I'm
right.
you're right. You can still kind of get through your day,
That's
But to
interesting.
me, if you cannot nail your sleep routine down, and it will come back to bite you in some way,
Yeah,
you
everything
know.
else suffers. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
much more so than so yes, I would say sleep is kind of little bit higher on the
Yeah.
priorities,
It,
but they're all important, don't get me
it's
wrong.
not siloed, but
Yeah.
that's a good starting point if you're listening to us and you're going through something hard right now and you're not necessarily thinking, "Oh, yes, I'm building resiliency in
Yeah.
this." You're just living.
Yeah.
Make sure you're getting some good sleep through whatever it is that you're going through
Hmm.
right now. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
making light
can't
of it,
stress
but
that, and I
yeah.
cannot stress it. It's funny. My other half, Eric, he kind of laughs at me, but I'm like, no, no, I got to go to sleep. I can't, it's not a, hey, let's stay out a little later. No, I want to go home and get my 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, which is
Yeah.
what I require. And my bedroom's got the blackout curtains and all of that because, it's that important to me because I know what it feels like when you don't have enough sleep and it's just, I am trash the next day. I
Well,
really am.
I
So,
didn't mean to distract you from your notes. What were you going to
yeah.
lead us into?
No, the notes that what I was, let me find that. Yeah, well, the thing about prioritizing the sleep over, not that the other things like eating and nutrition and movement and all of those things are not important. They are very important, but my notes I was saying, like, okay, the sleep is just a little bit like if somebody were to say, well, you have to pick one, then I would say sleep for sure.
Yeah.
So, it's sort of the bed, it's sort of like it forms the bedrock for resiliency because if you're exhausted, and you've got brain fog and
Yeah, everything else
you can't
suffers.
formulate a thought or put two thoughts. I mean,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it impacts everything, your mental
it
health, your
does.
physical health,
It
your
does.
relationships in your lives.
Everything.
So here's something I'm thinking about.
Mhm.
I had the opportunity to interview so many incredible people on my show, people who've done really just incredible challenges in their lives and whatnot. A lot of mountain climbing. I do a lot of metaphors about the mountain because it's just such a great metaphor for life. We
Mhm.
climb a lot of mountains in our lives. But I think it was, I'm trying to think who it was who said, I have to go back because I want to give that person credit. It wasn't my original thought. But we don't spend a lot of time talking about coming down the mountains. And I even see it on social media about the grind and work hard and, build resilience and all that kind of stuff. But we don't really sometimes talk about the coming down the mountain. It's not quite as hard. We're recovering. Maybe we're getting back to some kind of balanced level. When you go through things in your life, it's like you're in this heightened sense of, you know, awareness and level of activity. And maybe you're in a little bit of a fight or flight or, freeze. Like there's all this kind of heightened level of processing life sometimes to get through things. And then you have to kind of reset your nervous system,
Mhm.
and allow yourself to recover, allow yourself to breathe some more, take care of yourself, love yourself, self-care, nurturing yourself,
Mhm.
massage, all these things that you can.
Oh yeah.
I've been talking about my shoulder,
Yep.
right?
There you go.
Yeah,
Yep.
just take care of yourself. So I think
Mhm.
that's all part of this like recovery. And I don't know. I mean, because I'm a health promotion leader, I listen to a lot of voices out there and I read a lot and study a lot. I think we're really good at messaging grind, push harder, get up at 4 a.m., go work out, all of that, which is important. The grind is important, whether it's coming from within or learning how to adapt to it from without or external.
Mhm.
But I think we need to really start to push this message of like, it's okay to allow yourself some leisure time. It's okay to play. It's okay to, laughter and all this other light stuff, this, floating stuff. So I think that's all part of recovery.
Mhm.
let me make one other quick point. When we learn resilience through hard things, absolutely. But when we push too hard, we can experience burnout.
Yep.
And burnout is not fun. Burnout really can be serious depending on the
Yep.
extent that you experience burnout. So I think I love this conversation because I just think we're emphasizing something it's like a different stage. It has to
Um,
be part of it, resiliency, but you have to recover too.
mhm. So I don't want to call it pushbacks. I don't want to say I'm pushing back on, but when your analogy of climbing a mountain brings to mind a story, and this is a true story about a colleague of mine years ago who was a mountaineer, and he it was 2004, and he went to climb Mount Everest. He saved his money and he went and took and had done all of the because you have to do
Right.
prerequisites. They
Physical.
don't just right. You have to climb another over 8,000 meter peak, I think. Or I can't remember what the
Right.
but anyway, he checked all the boxes and he was paid the money and he was cleared to go and he went and uh they it I didn't realize this that you go up the mountain and you have to come back down because you have to acclimatize, which actually now that I think about it, that's kind of the idea of resiliency, right? You're enabling yourself to adapt to your surroundings.
Yes.
That's kind of by
Mhm.
definition, right?
Yes.
So it took them about a month, I guess, to get up to the summit. And I'll finish that story in a sec, but what the point that I wanted to bring when you're talking about going down the mountain, well, they all said it's like, well, going to the summit is optional, but coming down is not.
Wow.
And so, and you think about it, more people, and I did not know this until I experienced this with him. I didn't go, obviously, but sort of following him as he did this, that more people don't make it on the way down the mountain, not the way up.
Now what? Why?
Because you're tired. You only have so
Oh,
much, and to do you have to have the physiology to do that. um, you you can get what's called high altitude pulmonary edema, or HAPE, HAPE, or you can get cerebral edema where your brain swells and then you can't ambulate, you can't
so
walk.
this is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I'm going to say philosophically then.
Yeah.
Recovery is a process too. Don't expect something to necessarily happen right away.
Mm-hmm.
When I finished my PhD journey was 5 years of cognitive overload,
Yeah.
lack of sleep, brain
Yep.
fog,
Yes.
all of it.
I'm sure. Yes.
Finished and I was tired and
Mm-hmm.
it took time. You have to
Yeah.
so maybe there's the lesson there because a lot of like the wisdoms that we bring on the show is because we've lived it and we breathed it in different
Oh,
ways.
sure. Yeah. Yep.
Um, give yourself the grace of time to recover,
Mhm.
because
And enough
and
time to recover.
pace yourself.
Yep.
So go back to the mountain. Let me hear the rest of the
Okay,
story.
so
I'm
yeah, so
intrigued.
I mean, it's a great story, but I mean, this colleague of mine, he actually almost lost his life because on the way up, I don't remember where he got to Camp 2 or Camp 3 or something, and then he developed very, very severe pulmonary edema. And what happens to your body when you are is the alveoli, which is the little sacs, the microscopic sacs in your lung tissue, where the gas exchange occurs, where the CO2 O2 exchange occurs, then you respirate, right? Those alveoli sacs start to burst.
Wow.
They swell, they fill with fluid, and they burst, and they get it's a life-threatening situation. And he had to be it's pretty crazy because a lot of people, if you can't get down off the mountain with your own ability, with your own, they leave you there. And it's not because they're like, oh, well, we don't care. It's that you can't, your body is so taxed getting your own body weight through that environment that you can't possibly hold 100+ pound person. And, so that
So what's the metaphor?
the metaphor is that you climb the mountain, but you also have to take due care in going down the mountain. And then when you're on the ground, that's when you recover, when you're done. So
Interesting.
it's not just climbing. Certainly that's part of it, but you also have to remember that the journey's not over when you hit the summit. For a lot of people, they think, okay, the journey's over now. I've hit the summit. No, you've still got to get down the mountain, so to speak, that um, that there is that aspect to it as well. And yes, you have to allow yourself to recover, and you have to give yourself that grace, as you say. Um, because then you can recover and you come back stronger, and your body makes those physiological adaptations to the stresses that were on you. Your mind, mentally, you make those adaptations. Emotionally, you make adaptations, and you come out of it ready to go in for the next round, so to speak, right? And you're
Great.
that much better. That's fitness, right?
As you're talking, I'm just sitting here thinking like this is why I say it over and over again. We can learn so much about life through athleticism because
Yep,
what you're talking about is like if you're training for something and you cross that finish line, it's not over. You have to recover. If you
yep,
go too quickly into the next thing, you
yep.
know.
That's a process too. Recovery
Yeah.
is a process too. And
This
it
is so
is a skill
great.
set. It is a skill set. I didn't realize that all of these things are skill sets, and recovery is definitely one of them. Without a doubt, it's a skill set.
So let me put you on the spot for a second because we didn't really plan this, but how can we give people strategies? Because we don't know, there's no way for us to, for Arwen and I to know exactly what you're going through in your life today. We wish everybody the absolute best. We don't want necessarily for external things to come. You want to
Yeah,
put yourself in a hard physically, mentally, however you want to do that. That's great. But, sometimes having a coach in your life helps you get,
helps
achieve
a
these
lot.
things
Yep, yep,
without
helps a
getting
lot.
injured or something like that. But what, what are strategies if people are going through some hard things right now, um, in terms of,
Um, so I would say to like no the I'd say the first thing is develop a sense of what doesn't feel right for you in your
okay,
life. What is like know what the red flags, like your shoulder, you know, know that. Sorry, I don't keep mean to keep beating you over the head with that one, but
all right,
no,
everybody, I got a shoulder
know
issue.
the yeah, know the red flags when they're waving, and that to me is sort of half the battle. Kind of knowing, what, something ain't right here, something's not right here.
Okay.
And yeah, if you have a coach to bounce it off of and say, hey, what do you think about this? Having that in your life is a monumental difference maker, because it's hard to be, you're so subjective,
We have
it's
tunnel vision.
right, exactly. And
Or
it's sometimes,
actually, a lot of us have not even tunnel vision, blinders on.
yes, yes. And sometimes people, like we were talking about, we touched on burnout. I mean, a lot of people don't even realize that that's what they're going through.
That's
They
true.
just, they just are like, okay, and the instinct is to push even harder, and it's like there comes a point at which you're at a breaking point.
Yeah.
I think through wisdom, and unfortunately, sometimes some of us have to learn the hard way,
Yeah,
and I'm
we do.
certainly, I'm sure,
Me
yes,
too.
yep,
That's why we're
we're both,
here.
yep. I think generally high achieving women, which generally that is who I work with as well. They tend to they fall into that, and they have to go through one or two bouts of really bad burnout before they realize, you know what? Okay, that's when you can develop your guide rails. Again, it's a skill set. It really is a skill set.
Can I say one quick thing about burnout?
Yeah, of course.
First of all, and when we say coaches, like a coach can be an athletic coach, but can also
Hmm.
be like therapist,
Yeah.
it can be a
Yep.
friend. I mean, it's just having somebody outside yourself just to
Hmm.
sometimes help you see things that you can't see yourself. And it's just a
Yeah.
wonderful growth opportunity too.
Hmm.
And then what was I just gonna say? I forgot. Oh gosh.
Well, we were talking about what are things that
Oh,
paying
strategies.
attention to
Yeah.
the red flags.
Okay.
I mean,
Red flag.
yep. And
Right.
if you're finding yourself like taking whatever due care that you can, making sure that you're getting the sleep, you're getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
And if you're not figuring out what it is, okay, well, maybe I need to go to bed a half an hour, maybe simple as that. Or it
Mhm.
may be like, I'm taking 5 milligrams of melatonin may help, or, eliminating the screen time an hour before you lay your head down. I mean, any and all of these things, but knowing, developing sort of like a toolbox of things that that will help you. So in that
Absolutely.
those things in the realm of sleep, sleeping, but also making sure that you're eating properly and you're not eating at midnight, which I mean, I can't eat that late. I mean, maybe some people can, but you know, and that you're exercising on a regular basis. And that doesn't have to be training for triathlon. It doesn't have to be that. As long as you're doing some kind of movement, some kind of nutrition, trying your best to mitigate the stresses that come in, because you're not going to be able to, um, you can't avoid them. And I don't necessarily think of trying to avoid them is the right thing. It's just knowing how to deal with them and cope
Yeah.
and mitigate the challenges that those things
These
bring.
are life skills. Life is
Yeah.
not one dimensional. Life is
Mm.
very three-dimensional. So you just
Oh, yeah.
learning, when you have
Definitely
take good care of
multidimensional.
your mental health and your physical
Mm-hmm.
health and
Yeah.
nurture the relationships in your lives, and you can get through some of these things a little bit without them really throwing you off your game, so to speak. Okay, I
Well, I
wrote
think
down.
all of these things together cultivate resilience
I
is
agree.
I guess what I'm kind of getting to in a roundabout way.
Yeah, I made some notes I didn't forget now. Okay, so it was
Mhm.
burnout. It was burnout. What I wanted to say about burnout is sometimes burnout can look like depression and
Hmm.
anxiety, but depression is more clinical. Like if you have, if you suffer from um depression, it's I guess the way I've learned about it is burnout isn't necessarily depression, but a lot of times you can feel depression in burnout. So they're two kind of different things.
Well, yeah,
Um,
I think depression is sort of is symptomatic.
mhm.
So if you find that you have a normally a cheerful disposition, and you find yourself feeling really sad all of the
Right.
time and negative, then maybe that
It
there's a
could be a
red flag for
burnout.
you to,
Right.
yeah, it could be that. It could be, I mean, you can't automatically say, okay, well, I feel sad today. Well, I must be feeling burnout. Well, I mean,
It's
maybe not, but it's an
if it's long,
uncovering
if
process.
you can, I think if you rest and recover and do all these things we're talking about, and you find your way back to yourself, it
Hmm.
was probably burnout. If it's long term and it's chronic and it's really hard to manage and it's really like, disrupting the quality of your life and you can't do things or participate in things, that could be something more along the line of depression. So there's a
Yeah.
distinction between the two. I think burnout you can recover from quicker.
So this kind of, I don't know why this brings this to my mind, but um, I I studied design when I was as my formal
Yeah,
education.
I remember textile all
And
the time.
yeah, and part of a big part of when you go to design school is you have to learn about art and art history. And um, anyway, um, there I went to an art exhibit where I saw a huge painting. I mean, it was massive painting, painted at in the late, I want to say late 1800s to turn of the century by a French painter named Georges Seurat. And it's a very famous painting. And the technique he used was what's called pointillism. And he would just put these little dots
Wow.
and he would layer the dots and have all these little dots and it like when you're this close to the painting, all you see are these like tons and tons of little dots. But when you step away and you see the whole painting, you're like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful image I've ever seen. I can't believe that. So
Interesting.
your life, oftentimes we're this close to the painting that we can't see the big picture. Do you see what I'm saying?
I
So
love
we're looking
that.
at the little dots and
Yeah.
seeing the little individual dots and um, being able to step back and say, okay, hold on. Let me look at my life and at the 30,000 foot level, and you
Right.
can sort of see it a little more in retrospectively, and you can see, all right, then maybe the little red flags are become, a little more evident. And,
It's a
you know,
great metaphor because sometimes, like, when you're in the middle of something and it's hard, you don't think you're ever going to get out of it.
yep.
And I always say, never ever give up. Never give up on yourself. If you're in
Hmm.
something hard, do what Arwen just said. Find a way to step back and look
Yeah.
at things in a more macro, broader space because you're going to get through it. You're going to get through
If
it.
you're
And you're
finding
gonna,
it to be a slog, yeah, if you're
right?
like, this is a slog, take a step or two
Take a
back,
step
like take
back.
a breath, take a
Right.
step or two back,
Such
and,
great wisdom.
you know,
So we didn't really talk about, you bring this is why I love having you on the show. You bring
mhm.
so much great wisdom because it's so true. Like
Yeah,
just take a step back, put it in perspective, you're going to get through it.
yeah.
One other thing I wrote down before I forget,
Hmm.
and Scott just said it on episode 79. He just said, one small, break things down into small steps.
Yes.
Small steps. It's such a
100%.
great strategy for
Yep.
life. Just small
Yep.
changes. One small change a day, if you can do it, one small change at a time.
One page of the book at a
One,
time.
all right. We got some we, we got some things going on behind the
Yes,
scenes
we
over
do.
here.
Yep. Yep. But it's true. That's the other thing, and it's breaking it down. You're so right. And your
Yeah.
other guest was so right. Breaking
Yeah.
it down into workable and every time, every little piece you get through, and then you take that step back and you realize, damn, look at how far I came.
I know.
Look at
It's
how much of
actually
this I got done,
I
you
know
know?
these conversations I always have them about our mental health, our physical health, our relationships in our lives because my degree is in leadership and health and human performance. I'm a health
Mhm.
promotion leader. And I talk about the same things over and over and over again because at the end, ultimately, what Arwen and I, the reason we're having these conversations is that we want to live our best lives. We want people to thrive. We want you to be successful. We want you to be healthy. we have both, and we haven't really dived into some of our life experiences, and we can maybe do that on the next episode.
Sure.
Because when we had our first conversation together, and it was months ago, I've never been on the phone with somebody for like 2 straight hours like
Oh,
that.
I know. That was
Remember?
crazy, right?
We talked
Yeah.
like the whole, I mean, we talked the whole
Hours.
way to my
Yeah.
where I was going to the vet.
Yeah.
It was a 2 hour
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
And I've never had a conversation with somebody for that long about about these types of
Hmm.
topics. And we shared about some of these moments in our lives that have transformed our lives.
Yeah.
From very early on, another
Yep.
similarity we both had is that we had these experiences in our 20s that
Yep.
really changed the trajectory of our lives, so to speak.
Sure. Yep.
Um, and they're still going to happen, and we're ready for them. And what we learned in them is resiliency, and what we're talking about is the recovery. So, as we
Yeah.
kind of wrap up today, I want to give you the final word. I know you always say you're the host of the show, but I really see you as like my co-pilot, right?
Oh, all
So,
right.
all right, so take the steering wheel and tell us why all of this mattered today and leave our audience with some of your gems and wisdom.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I would have to say that resiliency is both a process and an outcome. It's something that I don't think you realize you have it until after you look back. It's a retrospective, um, it, it's it's a retrospective realization is probably really the best way to put it. And it really is sort of you look at it after the fact and you're like, wow, I did that. Well, let me try this. I can do this,
Mhm. Gives you confidence.
Right. But when you're in it, right? When you're in the, as you call it, the grind or the slog to get through, you do have to watch for the red flags and have some compassion for yourself, not just physically. Certainly that's important, but give yourself that grace to say, okay, you know what, today may have not been the best day, but I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to, give it my best. And I'll do it again the next day and the next day. And just being able to make those little adjustments and not get swept up in the minutia, but again, like the painting, stepping back and seeing it from the big picture, and at the same time seeing the big picture and then saying, I'm going to break it down and that's how I'm going to get through this. So
Hmm.
it's being able to see it both as an entirety as well as, the little individual steps and showing up and doing them.
Excellent. I agree. You know what? I know I just said that was it, but can I ask you one more thing?
Of course.
I've been asking all my guests. I just think it would be fun to ask you this. I've been
Sure.
asking all my guests, like at the end um, of our conversations, this question. I kind of want to ask you, even though I'm not like interviewing as a guest. We're kind of more collaborating on this conversation, but I'm going to ask you, and then you can ask me at some point in time if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Okay, well,
right.
today's your turn. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
All right, Arwen. What are we training for?
Oh,
Oh,
I
wait, let me
mean,
just say one thing. It can be like
okay.
literally, metaphorically, any way you want to answer it. It doesn't have to be like I'm training for a triathlon next weekend. It can be
Right,
whatever
right.
you want it.
Okay. What am I training for? I am, oh boy. I feel like for me on a physical level, strictly as an athlete, as somebody who's been an athlete basically her whole life, it's kind of like the way I live my life. So that's kind of like a part and parcel of who I am. Um, but if you want to look at it more on a metaphoric level, like I'm training to be, I worked as a coach and a trainer for 20 something years. And I realized that that's just part of my calling and that what I have to offer the world is much greater than that. It encompasses that, but it's like a little wedge of the, you know what I mean? It's a little piece of the puzzle. And realizing that I have more to offer and that it is of greater value to people, I believe. And then putting it in a putting it in a package that I can then release it onto the world, I guess. That's what I'm in training for at this very moment.
Sounds like a book.
Could be. It could be. I don't know. That's certainly I think that is part of it. I definitely would say it's part of it. Oh, I can't wait to get you back with this. I'm going to remember this one, Sarah.
Okay. All right, you guys. Well, there you got it. It it's a pleasure to have you on the
Always.
show. I look forward to having you back as we move on. We're going to talk about the courage to be seen. And these are
Oh,
all related, you know.
love it.
They're
Yes.
all
Can't
related
wait
to
to work
living.
on that one with you.
Yeah, it's all about human flourishing and human thriving, and
Love
it's
it.
all good stuff, you
I
know.
can't wait to pick your brain on that one.
Okay. Well, there you got it, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. It was a pleasure to have you on the show, Arwen, and we'll be
Pleasure
back
to be
soon.
here as always. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Bye bye.